Okay, the next assignment is going to be to create your own graduation announcement. And you're going to make it in Photoshop. Hopefully you're getting more and more used to Photoshop, so it's easier for you to start this up without having to have specific information to put in new layers and to start a new file. You're going to make it in Photoshop as a 5x7 or 4x8, and think of whether or not you want this to be vertical or horizontal. Here's a few examples of ones to kind of get you started with. So some of these have just a single image on them. I want you to use at least 3. You can use 3, 4, or 5 pretty easily. You can Photoshop them as much as you want. This one's quite Photoshopped, and imagine having at least 2 more pictures on there. This one is nicely laid out, is using at least 3 pictures on it, and has nice coloring, nice flow all the way across it. This one has a nice textured background that is going to be required on your graduation announcement. Fun borders around the pictures and a little play with size and proportion. This one has just a single image, but you can see how easily there could be another image put here and here to create your graduation announcement. And you can play with cutting the pictures apart if you would like to, and being able to show through lettering. This one has a lot of showing through the lettering, and this is really easy to find if you want to find a tutorial on the internet and just look up things like putting a picture inside a letter using Photoshop, and you'll find a tutorial that'll walk you through that. But you can just use a mask, or you can use just putting on the letters and then actually cutting out and showing a transparent through between the layers. Works perfectly fine. So those are just a couple examples, and what you're going to do is open up Photoshop, and you're going to start with File, New, and then whatever size that you're going to do, and choose your background color. I'll walk through this with you, but use a minimum of 3 pictures for your announcement. There could be a baby picture also if you'd like to bring one in, and use at least one background or texture that can be found off the internet and brought in. Class of whatever your graduation year is, your name is required on there along with your address and phone number. And for seniors, your graduation open house and a date and time of your grad party. Obviously, you probably don't know that by now, but when you do find that out, you should be able to pull this back up as a PSD and make it so that you can actually just plug in the correct date and time. And for juniors, what you're going to do is record or put on your favorite saying or quote. And big on this, do not stretch your pictures. Pull from the corners of the pictures. If you don't hold the right proportions automatically, you need to hold down your shift key and it will keep them in the correct size. You're going to hand the JPEG into Shutterfly, but don't forget to save it as a PSD to be able to make the changes later. And the example album name is on the bottom here. So to pull up Photoshop and show you what we're doing, so here's the one that I made of Johnny Depp, and to show you how to start that out, what I did was to start with, again, File, New, and I'm going to decide which I want to start with. 5x7, like I said, is the most normal, and I want to decide if it's going to be vertical, then it's going to be taller than it is wide. I want to do a horizontal, so it's similar to the one that I have right here. So the width is going to be wider, so I'm going to go 7 by 5. Now beware, because it might say pixels here, and what you want to do is inches. So, and there I just need to change it again, so I'm going to change it to 7 by 5. Make sure that this says 300. If it doesn't, you need to change it to that. That is your printing quality, and you could title it up here, and I'm just going to leave it untitled so I can find it fast, but certainly you can title it whatever you want, and then say OK. And now I have just a transparent background to work on, but I know it's 5x7, so I can start working on that. And the first thing that I'm going to do is figure out what I want my background to be, and I'm going to use this picture as the main picture in it, the big one. And the first thing I need to do is to change the sizing. So I'm going to go to Image, Image Size. I'm going to change the resolution up to 300, and then change my height to 5, because it's a 5x7 right now. If I changed it to 7, that would make it so that it would be too tall for it. So I need to make it 5. And again, inches, not pixels. And say OK. And then I'm going to select all and copy it and go back to my untitled background. And I'm going to paste it in. So edit, paste. And then I can hit my move tool and I can move it wherever I want to move it to. I'm going to put it over in the corner of the picture. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and bring in a new black background to it. So I'm going to go to Layer and New, Layer, and I could choose a color if I wanted. I want it to be black, and that's not one of the options there, so I'm just going to leave it where it is. I'm going to title the layer though so I know what I'm working with, so I'm going to say black. And on here then, I'm going to go find my fill, and it is hiding under the gradient right now, so I'm going to go to my paint bucket, and I'm going to make sure that this is black and white that I'm dealing with down here. If it wasn't, all I need to do is hit reset on it, and I could flip these around back and forth. So I'm going to fill with black and put that in. Now that covered it up, so I'm going to make sure it goes behind it. I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to put a mask so that I can put a gradient going between the two. I'm going to go up here where the paint bucket is, go to gradient. I'm going to pull in and let it blend out. Now that didn't do very much, so I'm going to pull a little bit harder and make sure that it just keeps blending that edge out of there. I could use the eraser tool, but that means that it's gone forever, and I don't want that to happen. So there, that made it so that it blended between the two. Now I'm going to pull in a textured background. So my texture is right here that I had pulled off the internet. I'm going to go to fit on screen so that I can see it. I'm going to make sure that this is the same size. I have already resized this one to the right size to it, to the height. You can see the width is wider. That's fine. All I needed to do is to match with the height. So resolution 300 again, say OK. If that wasn't the way it was, I would want to change it at that point in time. Select all, which it already is, edit, copy, and click on my untitled background again so that I can put that on there. And edit and paste, and again it's covering everything. So right now I'm going to leave it there because all I'm going to do is select around everything that I don't want and hit delete, and then that just puts the texture on the side. Now you can see that the coloring doesn't match very well between the two right now, so I can go to my hue saturation down here or do a color overlay or whatever I want to do to it. Click on that. I could pull my coloring. I can mess around with that if I want to. Lots of different things that I can do to it. So right now I'm just going to leave it the way that it is. And then I'm going to put another picture onto here. So I'm going to find another picture to throw in, this one. And now I need to resize it again. So I'm going to go to image size. Make sure, first of all, that it says 300. Now I need to use some logic. I don't want this to be the full size of the picture, so I don't want it to be the 5 inches. I'm going to make it less than half the size of the picture so 2 other pictures fit on the edge. So I'm going to bring this down to 2 inches. Actually, I'm going to do this one. 2 inches by 2.4, and that will make it so that it's a pretty decent size on there. Say OK. Select it. Copy it. And go again to my untitled background. I can make this so that it fits on there a little bit better again, so that I can see my layers and I don't have to keep moving them around. Okay, so put my layers back up where they should be, and then I'm going to paste it onto here. I'm going to move it where I want to move it. If I want to actually put a border on it, I'll go to the effects down on the bottom and hit stroke, and wherever I want this to position, I can make my size bigger, smaller. I actually want to position this inside so that it gets a nice sharp edge on it. I could color it if I wanted to. I'm going to just say OK for a moment, put that on there, and show you again what I did with this one. They were small so that they just showed up a little bit. It does get lost on this edge, but that's okay. So go back to the untitled. Now on this one, I'm going to move it in to where I want it to be, and I could resize again, hold my shift key down from a corner, pull it down, and I'm fine. If you go down in size, you're never going to have a problem. If you go up in size, that's when it gets pixelated, but if you go just a little bit, it should be okay. Then I'm going to put my text onto here. I'm going to apply this. I could hit my check mark up here, and it's syncing. There. Okay, and then I would hit my text and put my text on. If I want this color to match with something out here, I can click out in these, and whatever I'm choosing will show up there. Say OK. I actually want to be on that layer. I wasn't on the layer at that point in time, so I'm going to go back here and choose a round, not changing. I can also just choose the color if I want to choose. So go here and choose one that'll match in the picture, say OK. Click out here, I've got all my options of my lettering up here. I can do drop shadows on these. Again, let me just put that in, change it to some lettering that I want. I have to select around it to change that. Change it to something, and then I'm going to show you how to put the effect onto there. So I want to do a drop shadow so it will show up better. I am going to, red would be kind of weird on it. Maybe I just do white or something and hit normal so it shows up. And I can do how much I want that to show up, the angle that it's going at, the distance that it is from it. All of those things will change, and I could change inner shadow, outer shadow, all that kind of stuff on the side here if I want to. I could put a stroke around it, everything over there. So that's the basic idea, and play around.